Let's lock in. In this video, we're going to discuss reasons why no one cared when Gervonta Tank Davis announced his retirement. And reason number one is no one believes him. No one really believes that he's going to retire. So that's one of the reasons why no one overreacted. Throughout the history of boxing, we've heard fighters threaten retirement. Some of them really retire, then they come back, then they retire again, then they come back. Floyd has had a few retirements in his career where he came back. So no one believes him. One, like, what else are you going to do? You're going to leave at the peak of your powers. You're going to leave when you've built yourself into someone who can sell pay-per-views and you have fights out there that can generate a lot of money, and you're just going to leave all that money on the table. So the number one reason why no one even really reacted when he said it is no one believes him. He said he wants to do real estate and he wants to make money and be off the grid. Well, yes, he can make money in real estate, but he'll never make the money the way he makes it in boxing. So in real estate, he can make decent money, but will it be able to sustain the lifestyle he's accustomed to living at this particular moment, where you step in the ring and you make millions of dollars in 36 minutes of work? That's just not going to happen in the real estate market. You're talking about 36 months and you still won't make what you make in 36 minutes, right? So are you going to be able to adjust your lifestyle? Are you going to be able to have people? Are you going to do this yourself? You're going to balance the books, money coming in, money coming out, finances. You're going to do all that yourself, Gervonta, or you're going to have a team? Because if you think that you're going to just quit boxing and real estate is going to be enough for you to sustain the way you're accustomed to living, then that may be a recipe for disaster that brings you back to the sport anyway. So when you're going to leave the game, make sure you leave the game right. So what he's talking about at the end of this year, he got 3 fights. Well, you want to make sure that you know how much money you need in those 3 fights to put yourself in a position to live the lifestyle that you want to live outside of boxing. And will 3 fights be enough? Well, if 3 fights isn't enough, don't be too proud to be like, all right, look, I know I said 3 fights, but now 5 fights, because once I have these 5 fights, I know for a fact that I can retire and be comfortable and just get out of the spotlight. I don't blame him for wanting to get out of the spotlight. The spotlight isn't fun. I could only imagine, on days where you just want to be low key, people always want to come up to you. People always want to run up to you. And in the fanboy era of boxing today, people come up to you and say whatever they want and just be as disrespectful as they want. And it's like, touch me and I'll sue. So I can understand why he won't want to be in limelight. But reason number one is no one believes him. Number 2 is he doesn't give us the fights we want to see anyway. Like, look at what he's saying about fighting Shakur Stevenson. Like, oh, who is he beating? It's not about who is he beating. It's about the fact that people want to see you fight him. So if people are willing to pay to see you fight him, why is your question, who has he beaten? And again, you're not just talking about Shakur who has no accomplishments. You're talking about Shakur who went to the Olympics. He medaled in the Olympics, I believe. It was either bronze. I think it was bronze. He medaled in the Olympics. He's fought on ESPN. His most recent fight on ESPN drew in over 1 million views. And although people like to call him, Shakur melatonin, say he puts people to sleep, the reality is people watch Shakur's fights, though. You know how they watch his fights? Every time Shakur fights, it trends on Twitter, and everyone's doing the same thing. Even when they're saying he's boring, all everyone's doing is putting the sleep emoji up. It's almost trendy almost. It's funny. It's like we all tune into Shakur's fights because we either want to see him knock someone out or we all want to be like, oh, he put me to sleep again. We're all doing it, And it's funny because it happens for real. Like, I'm not going to lie. I fell asleep on 2 Shakur Stevenson fights and I woke up and I immediately was like, oh, he did it to me again. But that's the reality. We all tune in because we know with Shakur, we either going to get some excitement or a good night's rest. And so everyone watches Shakur and all you see is trending is sleeping and everything. But people are watching. That's the point. people care about watching Shakur. People tune into Shakur. So whether or not you think he's fought someone or not, which isn't true because he's champion in 3 different weight classes and he's beaten some good names and he's not just some slouch. But even if you really think that, he's still a guy who you can do your best numbers with. Now, let me just stop and check the people who are going to be like, well, you don't say that about Canelo and Benavidez. The difference is Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson are potentially the biggest numbers that Gervonta Davis can do against a fighter in terms of pay-per-view sales. Benavidez and Canelo is not. You can't guarantee that Benavidez versus Canelo would do more pay-per-view numbers than Canelo versus Munguia, than Canelo versus Berlanga. And if it's in the same ballpark, why would he not fight those guys before he fights Benavidez and just make more money, right? Now, the thing with Gervonta Davis is if he didn't want to fight Shakur Stevenson, but he chose to fight someone like Keyshawn Davis, that still would be a really good fight that people would tune in to see. But he's not even fighting a Keyshawn Davis. He's fighting Lamont Roach. And I don't know how many people were calling for a Lamont Roach fight. I don't know how many people were calling for him to fight Rolly Romero, right? I don't know how many people were calling for him to fight Hector Garcia. And I'm not saying that they're bad fighters, but he's not giving the people the best fights they want to see. And to tie in Canelo to this as well, when the people criticize Canelo, is Canelo has a history in the sport of fighting the best. Look at his resume. Look at the champions on his resume. Look at the names on his resume. He also cleaned out the entire division at 168 in 1 year of being there. David Benavidez was at 168 much longer, and he didn't even unify. So before you go at Canelo Alvarez, at least respect what he's done to legitimize himself. Now, if Gervonta Tank Davis would have done those things prior to selecting fights like these, I would be the one saying, well, you know, at this point, he can navigate his career and take the big fights, but we're still waiting for Tank to have that marquee fight, and we'll get back to that in a second. 2 is it's pain. I mean, that's 2. 3 is it's painfully obvious that Gervonta Tank Davis fights for the money. It's painfully obvious that he fights for the money, right? And not for legacy. He fights for the money and not for legacy. Because if it was for legacy, he would at least want to have that resume. Like you look at Shakur Stevenson, Shakur say, like, I'm 3 division weight champion. I'm 27 years old. I've been calling for the best. Shakur did go to the ring and try to get Devin. Shakur did try to get Vasily and say his daddy, Bob Arum, is protecting him, right? And I respect that Tank tried to get Vasily Lomachenko too. Vasily said he needs to think about it. He's considering retirement maybe. So there's nothing Gervonta Davis can do about that. But there is Shakur. You both wanted Vasily. Vasily stepped aside. So why don't y'all fight each other, right? There is that option. And it seems like Shakur's open to it, but Tank isn't. But even if you look at it, Shakur has solidified himself 3-division world champion, like legitimate world titles, not secondary titles. Devin the Dream Haney is someone who, like him or not, you can't take away the fact that he became undisputed. 140, then he snatched another legitimate title. He's someone who's building that resume. And he's showing it's not just about money. Take on some of the tough fights. Whether you think he beat Vasily Lomachenko or not, which I personally don't think he beat Vasily Lomachenko, he got the decision. So you got to give that to Devin. And then he beat George Kambosos, who was the man who beat Teofimo Lopez. So you got to give that to Devin Haney. Like, he does have some wins on his resume where you would look at it and be like, yeah, you know, I respect it. Now, I know some of you are going to say, yeah, but Ryan Garcia cooked Devin and Tank beat Ryan Garcia. The thing about that is Ryan Garcia has never been champion. And in the history of boxing, you do have fights where a contender does knock off a champion, but that doesn't mean that they're better than the champion. I'll give you an example. Hakeem Rahman knocked off Lennox, got his get back. Same with Oliver McCall, beat Lennox in the rematch. Lennox got his get back. It happens sometimes in the sport of boxing. Someone to get you, and you just got to come back and win the rematch. So Teofimo Lopez, although people don't like Teofimo Lopez, he did beat Vasily Lomachenko. Beat Vasily, took the titles. Then he lost to Kambosos, but then he went to 140 and he beat Josh Taylor, who was lineal at the time. So you got to respect Teofimo building his resume and his legacy. Now, of course, they're not as popular as Gervonta Tank Davis. They don't sell as many pay-per-views as Gervonta Tank Davis, but they are taking the tougher fights. And they are establishing themselves as formidable foes for Gervonta Tank Davis. But Gervonta Tank Davis hasn't fought any of them. At least when we look at these fighters, like they're stepping in the ring, each other, they're doing it, but we need them to fight each other. And I'm not even just going after Gervonta Tank Davis with this, because I feel like they need to step it up. And by they, I mean Shakur, Teofimo, and Devin Haney. They need to start fighting each other too. Even if they can't get Gervonta, they got to say, you know what, forget Gervonta. If he doesn't want to fight us, we're going to just make it known who's the best among us. Like, we don't care. We're going to keep doing our thing. We're going to make it known that, okay, we can't force Gervonta to fight us, but we're going to make it known who's the best among us. And then maybe once we establish ourselves, Gervonta will step up and fight us. But the reality is, in today's boxing, nobody's really established themselves as the next generational great from this era because they're not fighting each other. The truth is, Gervonta Davis can announce his retirement. Nobody would really care. Shakur could announce his retirement. No one would really care. Devin Haney can announce his retirement. No one would really care. Teo could announce his retirement. No one would really care. No one will really care because they're not giving us the fights we want to see. And that's the reality of it. And the fourth and final reason why no one cares is because Tank is no longer with Floyd Money Mayweather. And whether he likes to admit it or not, a lot of his appeal came from the fact that he was co-signed by Floyd, that Floyd took him under his wing. Floyd was using his star and his celebrity and his name, image, and likeness to promote Tank and get people on Tank's side. And now that he's publicly disrespected Floyd and publicly distanced himself from Floyd, people who really rock with Floyd or diehard Floyd Mayweather fans, they're not really feeling some of the way Tank's moving. So they don't feel as obligated to support Tank, because through supporting Tank, they knew that they were supporting Floyd Mayweather. But now they feel like, okay, since he wants to do this thing, like, I really don't rock with Tank that much. So that's part of the reason why nobody really cares. And it's part of the reason why, to be honest with you, his numbers are not as good as they were when he fought Ryan Garcia, but his numbers have gone back down. And looking at this fight against Lamont Roach to see what type of pay-per-view numbers he gets, and if these numbers don't do well, a lot of people are going to be pointing toward the fact that he no longer has the Mayweather cosign. He no longer has Mayweather using his name, image, and likeness to propel him forward. And you're feeling the impact of that, because he thought he was big enough now. He was big enough now. He didn't need it now, and he could disrespect Floyd now. But I'm not so sure that played well in the view of the public and with a lot of people who used to like Tank and support Tank, because supporting Tank was supporting Floyd Money Mayweather. So just to wrap it up, one, I don't think people believe that he's really going to retire. Two, he doesn't give us the fights that we really want to see. Three, it is painfully obvious that Gervonta Tank Davis fights for money over legacy. And four, that he has distanced himself from Floyd Mayweather, has gone as far as even disrespecting Floyd Money Mayweather. And that move is something that a lot of people don't like, especially the people who are rocking with Tank strictly because he was co-signed by Floyd Money Mayweather. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. It's Caden. I'm out. Peace.